Alright, so in this video we're going to have a translation and discussion of Aeneid, Book 6, lines 450 through 476. And so to credit my principal, Jeffrey Chur, for this stupid joke, Lat in, as we start it. Nevertheless, remember that in Book 6, what Aeneas is going to do is visit his father in the underworld, having been instructed by his father before his father's death on the island of Sicily to come and receive a pep talk and other sorts of guidance, because Aeneas is going to think, probably at this point, that the worst is over, but he is going to have to be told the worst is yet to come, obviously. And so, as we well know, he is going to have to go visit the Cumaean Sibyl at Cumae, and she's going to instruct him that he has to go and bury his friend Misenus, who he does not know has obviously been killed. And then secondly, he has to retrieve the Golden Bough, which is that backstage all-access pass to get him wherever he would need to go into the underworld. So with both of those, they enter into the underworld. And it's at this point that most unfortunately, he is going to encounter Dido. So how awkward. We start. Among which, this is referring to obviously as the Umbrae, those shades or shadows of the underworld. Phoenician Dido, fresh, recent from her wound. It has not been that long ago that unfortunately she has died. She, that Dido, was wandering in a great forest in Silva Magna. And whom, referring obviously to Dido, ut primum, as soon as the Trojan hero did stand, has stood, steady status, juxta, right next to her, right next to whom he recognized her, agnoscra agnoi, through the shadows, her all obscure, as it were. And so, it is going to be that in the underworld it's difficult to recognize people because they are shadows, but when he's right up on her, he recognizes, oh, this is Dido, obviously. And here we have, starting in line 453, the, of course, simile that is introduced by Qualim. What sort of, or just like a moon? And our subject is the qui, someone who is going to be implied. So just like the moon, that one that was described as obscure, which was Dido, she's going to be then what sort of moon? Who somebody either sees to rise in the first month, a new moon when it is at its smallest, and you cannot see it obviously, or thinks to have seen through the clouds, as it were. And so therefore it is difficult in the underworld because as a shadow you're dipping in behind other shadows, and then you're in the open again, and then you're behind other shadows, and that is what she is described as. And so to be able to see something like this, you have to be right next to her, which is why we had that word juxta, which is where we get the word juxtaposition, or juxtapose if you would like. Good. He, meaning Aeneas as our subject, sent down tears. And so he still loves the, of course, person. He has feelings for her. And, que ad fatus est, which we know is from for fari fatusum. And he spoke to her, he addressed her with sweet love. Oh, unlucky Dido in the vocative case. Therefore, a true messenger, a true message had come to me, implied obviously that it's true, that you had taken your own life. And again, this has got to be such an awkward exchange, seeing as obviously Aeneas is the one who had abandoned her. Nevertheless, had come to me that, and this is implied the subject, the accusative te, that you extinctam, and implying essay, had been extinguished, had died, and que, that you, secutam esse, had followed the extreme things, had followed death with iron, with the sword. Alas, and this is where we see, of course, Aeneas at his most obtuse. Alas, who I have been, sum esse fui, the cause of death, of funeral, for you. I swear, euro jurare, through the stars, but we would say idiomatically, by the stars, and by the gods, and if, and here we have the protasis of a conditional that is a present real, and if there is, est, any faith, si, nisi, numen, ne, all the ollies fall away, so that's really aliqua, modifying the word fides, and if there is any faith, under this lowest earth. This is an irregular superlative, imusa that is going to mean the lowest, and here tolere in the ablative, the object of the preposition sub. So if there is any faith under this lowest earth, in other words, if there is any credibility down here, I swear it, unwilling, I left, I departed, cato, catere, kesi, kesus, to go, unwilling from your shore, O Queen, addresses her again, just like in his speech in Book 4, as O Queen, said, but the orders of the gods. Remember, this is a syncopated form, and it's really de orderum. So, but the orders of the gods, those orders, and there's your verb, egere, they have driven, they have compelled me by their own imperiums, by their own powers. They have compelled me, they have driven me. These orders, which now compel, kogo, kogere, koegi, coactus, is co with ago, and it means to force. It's, of course, where we get the English word coagulation, like the blood that is forced together in order to clot so that we do not bleed profusely. Nevertheless, the orders which now compel, implied me, to go through these shadows, to go through these places. And Cinta is going to be like harsh, rough, with decay, and through the profound night. I think what, of course, Aeneas is implying is that I did not leave your kingdom because I wanted to. It was because I had to. Just like I'm down here. Do you think I want to hang out in the underworld where it's all like, you know, gross and creepy and terrible down here? I don't want to, but yet I have to. And so therefore, please understand that I didn't have a choice in the matter. He then goes on to keep putting his foot in his mouth. Quivi, I was not able, queo of course means to be able, I was not able to believe that I, and here's your accusative subject, and there's your infinitive verb, that I brought this so great grief to you by my departure, by my leaving. Siste, stop, halt, gradum, your step, and don't drag away yourself from our sight. Let's chat. Don't leave. Let's catch up again. Absolutely obtuse and oblivious is Aeneas. Whom do you flee? He's essentially implying, baby, it's me, Aeneas. You know me. We got history together. Again, obtuse at his highest level. This is the final thing which I address to you, which I say to you by fate. He's essentially telling me we're not going to be able to talk again. Let's chat. And of course, is Dido in any fashion wanting to talk, especially to him? No. Nevertheless, and when it says that Aeneas, Lanibot, he was lightening, in his own mind he was lightening her mind, making her feel better, but he was not. But he thinks that he is, and so that's why it says it. So Aeneas was lightening her mind with such words, her mind burning, and her mind watching him over, tueor tueri, to assume, and watching him over grimly. And he was stirring up, he was moving about tears. Yes, his own tears. He's getting himself worked up emotionally. But Dido, not so much, because we see in the very next line, Illa, that gal, referring to Dido, she turned away, was holding her eyes, having been fixed on the ground. That's where we get the word soil, solum soli. And no more. Magis is the comparative adverb of magnopere. Magnopere, greatly. Magis, more greatly. But idiomatic, we can leave out the word greatly and just say no more. So no more is she moved with respect to her face. And so this is another of those Greek accusatives of respect, or what I like to call the Greek accusative of the body part. By his speech having been begun, and so she ain't listening to what he has to say, than, so no more moved, than if harsh flint or Marpesian marble should stand. Again, the translation when you have a present subjunctive from sto stare in a conditional is that the protasis, the if clause, you use the word should, and the apodosis, the then clause, you use the word would. At last, tandem, she ripped away, corribuit, herself, and hostile personally, unfriendly personally, she fled into, in plus accusative, this is a third declension, not an ending, but nemus nemoris, the shadow-bearing grove, where her previous husband responds to that girl, that gal, that woman, with cares, with concerns, with loves. And Zacchaeus equals her love. Nec minus, no less. Aeneas, having been struck by the unequal disaster, by the unequal, implied like fate, but kasu is a downfall, disaster, catastrophe, and it's unequal because he's going to go back to the upper world, whereas obviously she is stuck down in the underworld. No less, Aeneas, having been struck by unequal disaster, he follows with tears longly, and he pities the one going. And so, lines 450 through 476, this awkward encounter between Aeneas and Dido. And so, to again credit Mr. Chur with this joke, we had started with Lat in, and now Lat out. Keep studying.